Dubai, August 15, 2019. 11:48 p.m. A security guard at Mirage, Dubai's most exclusive nightclub, makes his routine patrol through the back alley where VIPs discreetly enter and exit. What he discovers in the dimly lit service entrance will unravel a web of exploitation, betrayal, and silence that stretches from the crowded tenements of Manila to the gleaming towers of the United Arab Emirates. A beige leather purse, abandoned against the wall. Inside, a positive pregnancy test still in its packaging, a handwritten note in Tagalog expressing both love and fear, and an expired work visa belonging to Raquel Mendoza, 24, Filipino national. What you're about to witness isn't just a disappearance. It's the story of how dreams, power, and silence collide in a world where some lives are considered disposable. By the time you finish watching this documentary, you'll question everything you think you know about the price of ambition and the true cost of silence. If this story already has you invested, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe because what you're about to hear gets much darker. To understand how Raquel Mendoza ended up vanishing from one of Dubai's most exclusive nightclubs, we need to go back to where it all began. Manila, Philippines, 2018. The Mendoza family lived in a two-room concrete dwelling in Tanda, one of Manila's most densely populated slums. The corrugated metal roof amplified the tropical rain into deafening drumbeats during monsoon season. 6 family members shared a space smaller than most American kitchens. Elena Mendoza, once a vibrant community organizer, now spent most days confined to a thin mattress on the floor, her body ravaged by lupus that the family couldn't afford to treat properly. Her medical needs alone consumed nearly 70% of the family's income, leaving barely enough for rice and occasional vegetables. Raquel, the eldest of 4 children, had defied expectations by completing her nursing degree at Far Eastern University in 2016. She graduated with honors, her academic performance placing her in the top 5% of her class. But in a country where over 200,000 trained nurses remain unemployed or working in unrelated fields, her certificate gathered dust inside a plastic folder tucked beneath her sleeping mat. Raquel always had this determination in her eyes, recalls her former professor, Dr. Maria Santos. She wasn't just studying to escape poverty. She genuinely wanted to heal people. That's what made her special among my students. By day, Raquel worked as a sales clerk at SM Megamall, earning 12,000 pesos monthly, approximately $230. By night, she took online medical transcription jobs, adding another 5,000 pesos. Every peso was meticulously allocated. 8,000 for her mother's medications, 4,000 for her siblings' school fees, 3,000 for food, 1,000 for utilities. The remaining 1,000 pesos went into a small ceramic pig she'd had since childhood, her dream fund for eventually securing a nursing position abroad. She never bought anything for herself, remembers her sister Jasmine, now 22. Not clothes, not makeup, nothing. Even on her birthday, if someone gave her money, it went straight to Mama's medicine or our school books. The tipping point came in March 2018, when Elena's condition worsened, requiring hospitalization that cost the family 37,000 pesos, more than 2 months' combined income. Desperate, Raquel visited Gulf Horizon Recruitment Agency, one of dozens of employment firms in Manila specializing in placing Filipino workers in Middle Eastern households. The agency promised placements in high-class Dubai families, with monthly salaries starting at $600, nearly triple what Raquel earned in Manila. The contracts offered accommodations and food provided, meaning virtually all earnings could be sent home. The recruitment fee was steep, 120,000 pesos, but the agency offered a financing arrangement where they would front the cost and deduct 40% of Raquel's first year's salary. They made it sound like paradise, said Jasmine. They showed videos of beautiful homes with swimming pools, shopping malls bigger than our entire neighborhood. They said the families treat their housekeepers like part of the family. On May 17, 2018, Raquel embraced her mother one final time at Ninoy Aquino International Airport. Elena, too weak to stand without assistance, clutched her daughter's hands and whispered, "Remember who you are. Remember why you go." Raquel's siblings, Jasmine, Marco, 15, and Angel 12, formed a tight circle around their sister, each pressing small handmade gifts into her hands. A bracelet of woven thread, a laminated prayer card, a tiny fabric doll to remember them by. "I promise I'll call every week," Raquel told them, fighting back tears. "I'll send money for Mama's medicine. Marco, you study hard. Angel, help with the cooking. Jasmine, I'm counting on you." As she walked through the security checkpoint, Raquel turned back one last time, memorizing their faces. She had no way of knowing she was seeing her family for the last time. The 7-hour flight from Manila to Dubai marked Raquel's first time on an airplane. The Emirates Boeing 777 seemed impossibly huge, its economy cabin more luxurious than any space she had ever inhabited. She kept the boarding pass as a souvenir, tucking it carefully into her passport case alongside a small photo of her family. When she stepped off the plane at Dubai International Airport at 11:42 p.m. local time, the wall of heat hit her like a physical force, even through the climate-controlled jetway. By the time she reached the immigration checkpoint, her lightweight blouse clung to her body, dampened by sweat and anxiety. A representative from Gulf Horizon, a stern-faced Egyptian man named Faisal, met her at arrivals. He collected her passport for processing, a common but illegal practice that immediately placed Raquel in a vulnerable position. Without her travel documents, she was effectively tethered to her employment arrangement, unable to leave the country if conditions proved different than promised. "Welcome to Dubai," Faisal said, not smiling. "You are assigned to the Al-Hadid family. Very important people. Very wealthy. You are lucky." The drive from the airport to the Al-Hadid compound took them through Dubai's spectacular cityscape. Raquel pressed her face against the window, mesmerized by the Burj Khalifa piercing the night sky, the sprawling malls illuminated like alien spacecraft, the procession of luxury vehicles that made Manila's traffic seem like ancient relics from another century. "This is not real," she whispered to herself. "This cannot be real." The Al-Hadid family compound sat on the outskirts of Dubai, a walled estate spanning nearly 5 acres. Palm trees lined the circular driveway leading to a 3-story mansion that gleamed white against the desert landscape. Fountains danced with colored lights, and perfectly manicured gardens created an oasis of impossible green in a land of sand and heat. The main house exceeded 15,000 square feet, with marble floors imported from Italy, chandeliers of hand-blown Murano glass, and furniture custom-made by European designers. 8 bedrooms, 12 bathrooms, 3 kitchens, a cinema room, indoor swimming pool, and separate wings for entertaining and family living made it more palace than home. Raquel's living quarters, by contrast, measured approximately 100 square feet, a sparse room in the service annex behind the main house. A single bed, small dresser, and compact bathroom comprised her entire private space. The bare concrete walls had been painted a pale institutional green, and a small window overlooked the staff parking area. The air conditioning functioned sporadically, leaving the room stifling during daylight hours. "This is where you sleep," explained Mariam, the household manager, a stern Egyptian woman in her 50s. "Work begins at 5:30 a.m. You finish when the family no longer needs you, usually 10 p.m., sometimes later if there are guests." Raquel's assigned duties encompassed cleaning the family's private quarters, laundry, serving meals, and occasionally assisting with cooking under the direction of the household chef. The contract had specified a 6-day workweek with Fridays off, but Mariam quickly clarified, "You have free time when there is no work to be done. Sometimes this happens on Fridays, sometimes not." That first night, exhausted from travel and overwhelmed by her new surroundings, Raquel sat on the edge of her narrow bed and wept silently. The reality of her situation was setting in. She was essentially on call 24 hours a day, isolated in a foreign country, her passport held by her employers, in a culture whose language and customs were entirely unfamiliar. In those early days, Raquel found solidarity among the other foreign workers in the compound. Lakshmi from Kerala, India, who had been with the family for 7 years as a cook, Jamal from Bangladesh, who maintained the grounds and vehicles, and most importantly, Gloria, another Filipina who had been working as a nanny for the Al-Hadid's youngest children for 3 years. "Be careful here," Gloria whispered to her on her third day, while they folded laundry together in the service area, especially around the son Malik. He has habits with staff. 2 girls before you left suddenly. What do you mean, habits? Raquel asked. Gloria glanced around to ensure they were alone. He likes pretty Filipinas, makes special requests, asks them to clean his private areas late at night. If you say no, suddenly there are problems with your work, your visa, everything. If you say yes, she trailed off, shaking her head. The last girl, Diane, she thought she was special to him. Thought he would help her start a business, bring her family here. Then she got pregnant, and Gloria snapped her fingers. Gone. They said she went home, but she never contacted any of us again. Her phone number in Philippines doesn't work. Raquel absorbed this warning with growing unease. Thank you for telling me. I'll be careful. She first encountered Malik Al-Hadid on her 7th day at the compound. At 34, he was the oldest son of the family and the owner of Mirage, one of Dubai's most exclusive nightclubs catering to the international elite. Unlike his father, who adhered to traditional dress and customs, Malik embraced Western fashion and lifestyle, typically dressed in bespoke Italian suits and designer watches worth more than Raquel's family home. Raquel was dusting the main living area when he entered unexpectedly. She immediately lowered her eyes and stepped back, as she had been instructed to do when family members appeared. You're the new one, he said, his English carrying the polished accent of someone educated at European boarding schools. From Philippines, yes? What's your name? Raquel, sir. Raquel. He repeated it slowly, as if tasting the syllables. That's a beautiful name. Spanish origin, I believe. It means innocent lamb in Hebrew. She kept her eyes downcast. I don't know, sir. Look at me when I speak to you, he said, not unkindly. In this house, my father may expect the old ways, but I prefer to see the faces of people I'm talking to. Raquel cautiously raised her gaze. Malik was objectively handsome, tall and fit, with carefully groomed facial hair and intense dark eyes that seemed to evaluate everything they focused on. That's better, he smiled. You have lovely eyes, Raquel. Very expressive. He glanced at the dusting cloth in her hand. Tell me, what did you do before coming here? You seem too intelligent for housework. The conversation lasted less than 5 minutes, but it established a pattern that would gradually evolve over the coming weeks. Malik would appear unexpectedly during Raquel's duties, engage her in brief conversations that felt more personal than appropriate, and leave her with small compliments that made her both uncomfortable and inexplicably pleased. The attention escalated gradually. In her 3rd week, he requested that she specifically attend to his private suite within the family compound. In the 4th week, he left a small box of premium chocolates on her cleaning cart with a note that simply read, "For your sweet nature." By the 6th week, he was asking personal questions about her family, her dreams, her education, showing more interest in her life than anyone in her new environment had demonstrated. I understand you have nursing training, he remarked one afternoon, catching her alone in the hallway outside his rooms. That's impressive. Why work as a housekeeper when you have professional qualifications? Raquel explained the situation in the Philippines, the oversupply of nurses, the lack of positions, the desperate need to support her family. Malik nodded thoughtfully. A woman who sacrifices for her family. I respect that deeply. He paused, then added, my wife wouldn't understand such sacrifice. Layla comes from wealth, has never known struggle. This casual mention of his wife sent a warning signal through Raquel's mind. She knew from household gossip that Malik's marriage to Layla Al-Farsi had been arranged between the families when they were both in their early 20s. The union had produced 2 children, now attending elite international schools in Switzerland, but Layla spent most of her time in London or Paris, visiting Dubai only for important family occasions. Perhaps someday your nursing skills could be put to better use, Malik continued. The family has many business interests, including a private medical clinic. I could speak to someone. The promise hung in the air between them. Tempting, dangerous, probably empty. Yet it planted a seed in Raquel's mind. The possibility of a better position, a path to using her actual qualifications, a way to truly help her family beyond sending remittances. The first physical contact came during her 3rd month at the compound. Raquel was arranging flowers in Malik's suite when he returned unexpectedly. He stood close behind her, ostensibly to admire the arrangement, his chest nearly touching her back. "You have an artist's touch," he murmured, his breath warm against her ear. His hand lightly touched her waist, a fleeting contact that could have been accidental but wasn't. "These rooms have never looked so beautiful." Raquel froze, her heart racing. The touch lasted only seconds, but it crossed a boundary that terrified her. She remembered Gloria's warnings, remembered the stories of girls who had disappeared. Yet she also thought of her mother's medicine, her siblings' education, the money she sent home each month that was barely enough. "Thank you, sir," she managed, stepping carefully away. "I should finish the rest of my duties." "Of course," he smiled, seemingly unperturbed by her retreat. "But please, when we're alone, call me Malik. Sir makes me feel like my father." That night, Raquel lay awake in her small bed, replaying the interaction and the weeks of attention leading up to it. She knew she should maintain strict professional boundaries. She knew other girls had fallen into this trap before her. She knew the risks outweighed any potential benefits. Yet when she closed her eyes, she couldn't help imagining a different life, one where her nursing skills were valued, where her family's needs were met without constant struggle, where she was seen as more than just another replaceable domestic worker. "I'll be smarter than the others," she whispered to herself in the darkness. "I'll control the situation. I won't let him manipulate me." But the current of power had already begun pulling her toward a destiny she couldn't foresee. In a game whose rules were written long before she arrived in Dubai, by players who considered her merely another disposable piece. The transition from professional boundaries to intimate relationship happened with a calculated precision that, in retrospect, should have alarmed Raquel. By her 4th month in the Alhaded household, Malik had established a pattern of private interactions, requesting her specifically to clean his quarters during times when other staff were occupied elsewhere, finding reasons to discuss her background and aspirations, creating moments of seemingly accidental physical contact that grew increasingly deliberate. The first kiss occurred on September 23, 2018, exactly 129 days after Raquel's arrival in Dubai. She was arranging fresh towels in Malik's private bathroom when he appeared in the doorway, watching her with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. "You move like a dancer," he said softly. "Has anyone ever told you that?" Before she could respond, he closed the distance between them, his hand gently tilting her chin upward. The kiss was brief but deliberate, a clear crossing of lines that could never be uncrossed. The following day, a Gucci handbag appeared on her bed, genuine leather in a deep burgundy shade, with gold hardware that caught the light. The attached card read simply, "Your hands deserve to carry beauty. M." The handbag represented more than 3 months of Raquel's salary. It was followed by other gifts. A gold bracelet engraved with her initials, silk scarves, perfume from exclusive French houses. Each item arrived without fanfare, appearing mysteriously in her quarters, each one representing a silent escalation of their unspoken arrangement. By November, Raquel had been moved from the staff quarters to a guest suite in the east wing of the main house. A 400-square-foot room with a private bathroom, walk-in closet, and balcony overlooking the gardens. The official explanation given to other staff was that Raquel would be assisting with night nursing for the family patriarch, who occasionally needed monitoring for a heart condition. The financial dynamics shifted dramatically during this period. Raquel's official salary remained modest, with deductions still applied to repay her recruitment fee. But Malik began supplementing this with cash gifts weekly, allowing her to increase her remittances to her family in Manila. Her mother's medical treatments improved immediately, including access to a rheumatologist specializing in lupus. Her siblings transferred to better schools with stronger academic programs. "God must be watching over us," Elena told her daughter during their weekly video calls, her face showing subtle improvements from better medication. "Your employer must be an angel to treat you so well." The first signs of Malik's controlling nature emerged gradually. He gifted her an iPhone to replace her basic Samsung, so we can communicate more easily, but frequently checked her messages and call history. He discouraged her from spending her day off with other Filipino workers in the city. They'll gossip about your improved situation. He expressed concern about her weekly calls home. Be careful what you share about the family. By December, Raquel found herself in a gilded cage, materially comfortable but increasingly isolated, dependent on Malik not just for her livelihood, but for her entire sense of security in a foreign land where she had no independent legal standing. The first signs appeared in late January 2019. Subtle changes Raquel initially attributed to stress and altered eating habits. Persistent fatigue that kept her in bed during rare free hours. Unusual sensitivity to smells that had never bothered her before. Morning nausea that she struggled to hide from other household staff. She purchased a pregnancy test during her Friday afternoon off, walking to a pharmacy far from the compound to avoid gossip. In the privacy of her bathroom, she watched with growing horror as the second pink line appeared, unmistakable and life-altering. For 3 days, Raquel carried the knowledge alone, her mind cycling through increasingly desperate scenarios. Termination seemed impossible. Abortion was illegal in the UAE, and her Catholic upbringing made the option spiritually troubling. Returning to the Philippines would mean facing her family with her pregnancy while losing the income they desperately needed. Staying and revealing her condition would almost certainly mean immediate dismissal, possibly deportation. When she finally gathered the courage to tell Malik, she expected anger, denial, perhaps immediate termination. Instead, his reaction left her stunned. "A child," he said quietly, a smile spreading across his face as he placed his hand on her still flat abdomen. "Our child." The word "our" hung in the air between them, loaded with implications neither fully understood in that moment. "This changes everything," he continued, his mind already calculating new arrangements. "You can't stay in the house now. Too many questions, too many watchful eyes. I'll find you a proper place, somewhere private but comfortable." Within 72 hours, Raquel found herself relocated to a one-bedroom apartment in Dubai Marina, a gleaming residential tower overlooking the Persian Gulf. The 14th floor unit featured floor-to-ceiling windows, imported marble flooring, European appliances, and furniture selected by Malik's personal interior designer. The apartment was larger than her family's new home in Manila, with a monthly rent that exceeded her official salary several times over. "No one needs to know about this arrangement," Malik explained, handing her keys to both the apartment and a silver Nissan sedan parked in the building's garage. "You'll have everything you need delivered. A driver will take you to medical appointments. I've arranged for your employment record to show a transfer to one of my private businesses, so your visa situation is protected." What Malik didn't mention, and what Raquel wouldn't discover until much later, was that her work visa had not been properly transferred. Instead, she existed in a legal limbo, technically present in the UAE without proper documentation, her fate entirely in Malik's hands. The Dubai Marina apartment became Raquel's world, a luxurious prison with spectacular views. The space featured every comfort imaginable: a king-sized bed with Egyptian cotton sheets, a bathroom with rainfall shower and soaking tub, a kitchen equipped with appliances Raquel barely knew how to use. A weekly cleaning service maintained the space while a grocery delivery service kept the refrigerator stocked with premium imported foods. Malik visited 3 or 4 evenings weekly, typically arriving around 9 p.m. after attending to his nightclub business. He would bring gifts, designer maternity clothes, jewelry, gourmet chocolates, and spend several hours with Raquel before returning to his family compound or his nightclub. Their conversations during these visits revolved increasingly around the future child, with Malik making elaborate promises about education in Switzerland, trust funds, and eventual recognition. The financial support to her family increased significantly during this period. Malik arranged for monthly transfers to Elena Mendoza's bank account, ostensibly as Raquel's salary from her new executive assistant position. This money transformed her family's circumstances completely. Elena's medical care now included private nurses and imported medications. Her siblings attended prestigious private schools. During weekly video calls, Raquel wore loose clothing and carefully positioned the camera to hide her changing body. She attributed her inability to visit home to her demanding new position and the complexities of her visa situation. Raquel's isolation intensified during this period. Her only regular human contact beyond Malik was with delivery personnel and medical staff. Her prenatal care took place at an exclusive private clinic where discretion was guaranteed for wealthy clients with complicated personal situations. This isolation was briefly interrupted in her 4th month of pregnancy when Malik arranged for house help. Another Filipina named Sofia Reyes, 32, who had worked for several wealthy Dubai families over 8 years. Unlike the cautious, deferential demeanor Raquel had grown accustomed to among service staff, Sofia carried herself with a quiet confidence bordering on defiance. "You're not the first, you know," Sofia said abruptly one afternoon in April, as they folded newly delivered baby clothes in the nursery Malik had commissioned. Raquel froze, a tiny cashmere sweater clutched in her hands. "What do you mean? Girls like us, with men like him." Sofia continued arranging onesies by size, her movements precise and efficient. "There was a Russian before you. Before her, a Lebanese. Before her, another Filipina. You don't know what you're talking about?" Raquel snapped, protective of the narrative she'd constructed about her unique position in Malik's life. "This is different." Sofia's laugh held no humor. "Of course, it's always different. He always makes special promises. The apartment is always temporary until he can arrange things with his family. The baby is always going to change everything." By her 2nd trimester, the physical changes in Raquel's body were unmistakable. Her pregnancy progressed normally according to medical checkups, with the fetus developing on schedule and showing no complications. Ultrasound appointments confirmed Malik's assumption. They were expecting a son, due in early September 2019. Malik's enthusiasm seemed genuine during the early months, his visits regular and attentive. But as Raquel entered her 5th month, subtle shifts began to appear in the pattern of their relationship. His visits decreased from 4 times weekly to 2, then to sporadic appearances with little advance notice. Phone calls went unanswered for hours or sometimes days. When he did appear, his attention seemed divided, his mind clearly occupied with business concerns he refused to discuss. As her belly expanded, Raquel's anxiety grew proportionately. The reality of her situation became increasingly clear. She was entirely dependent on a man whose commitment remained verbal rather than legal, living in a country where her status was precarious at best, carrying a child whose very existence complicated an already complex arrangement. In her 6th month, during a rare extended visit from Malik, Raquel finally gathered the courage to address their uncertain future. "What happens after the baby comes?" she asked, her hand resting protectively on her abdomen. "We can't continue like this indefinitely." Malik's expression hardened slightly before smoothing into his practiced smile. "Why not? You have everything you need. Your family is well cared for. The baby will want for nothing. But what about us? What am I to you? What will our son be to you officially?" The question hung between them, heavy with implications. Malik paced the living room, his designer shoes silent on the plush carpet. "These things take time, Raquel. My family, my position, my marriage. These are complicated matters that can't be unraveled overnight." "It's been almost a year," she persisted, a new boldness emerging from maternal instinct. "Your son will be born with no father on his birth certificate, no legal status, no." "Enough." Malik's voice sharpened unexpectedly. "Do you think this is simple? Do you think I can just announce to my family that I've impregnated our former housekeeper? That I want to divorce my wife of 12 years for a woman they consider beneath our social standing?" Seeing her expression, Malik immediately softened his approach, kneeling beside her and taking her hands in his. "I didn't mean it like that. You know I value you, care for you deeply." His voice became gentle, persuasive. "These things must be handled delicately. After the baby comes, after things are settled with my current situation, we can discuss marriage. I promise." The word marriage sent a jolt through Raquel, the first time he had explicitly mentioned such a possibility. She wanted to believe him, needed to believe him, despite the warning signs multiplying around her. That night, after Malik had left, Raquel searched frantically through her belongings for her passport, a document she hadn't needed to reference in months. It was nowhere to be found. The realization dawned slowly, sickeningly. Malik still held her passport for visa processing. Without it, she couldn't leave the country, couldn't return home, couldn't establish legal identity for her child. The golden cage had no visible bars, but they existed nonetheless. By July 2019, Raquel's pregnancy had reached its 6th month, her once slender frame now visibly transformed. The elegant maternity dresses Malik provided could no longer disguise the reality of her condition. She avoided mirrors when possible, troubled not by her changing body but by the increasingly uncertain future it represented. The messages from Manila had become more frequent, more urgent. Her mother's health had plateaued but required ongoing expensive treatments. Her sister Jasmine was preparing university applications, her academic performance qualifying her for prestigious programs with corresponding fees. The family had grown accustomed to the level of support Raquel provided, their lives restructured around expectations of continued financial assistance. "The doctor says I might need a specialized treatment next month," Elena mentioned during their weekly video call, her voice carefully casual. "But don't worry about us, Anik. We are managing." The subtle pressure was unmistakable. Raquel's family needed not just continued support but increased resources, exactly when her own situation felt increasingly precarious. That evening, when Malik arrived for one of his increasingly sporadic visits, Raquel had prepared herself for a conversation she had postponed far too long. "We need to discuss what happens after the baby is born," she said firmly as he settled onto the sofa, declining the drink she offered. "I need something formal, something legal that protects our son." Malik's expression shifted subtly, the practiced charm giving way to something harder. "We've discussed this, Raquel. These things take time." "We're running out of time," she persisted, gesturing to her protruding belly. "In 3 months our child will be here. Without legal recognition, he'll have no rights, no protection, no rights." Malik interrupted, his voice suddenly sharp. "What exactly do you think you're entitled to? I've provided an apartment, a car, medical care, money for your family. Most women in your position would be grateful." The mask had slipped, revealing something cold beneath. Raquel took an instinctive step back. "My position?" she echoed. "And what position is that?" Malik stood abruptly, towering over her. "You were a housekeeper, Raquel. A domestic worker with an expired visa who should be grateful I didn't report you to immigration when your employment situation changed." The words landed like physical blows. "My visa expired? But you said." "I said I would handle it, and I have. You're here, aren't you? Not deported back to your slum in Manila." He moved closer, his presence suddenly menacing in a way it had never been before. "Do you understand what happens to foreign workers who overstay their visas? Detention, deportation, permanent blacklisting from the UAE. Is that what you want?" Raquel pressed her back against the wall, one hand protectively covering her belly. "You're threatening me." "I'm explaining reality," he replied, voice dangerously soft. "A reality where your continued comfort depends entirely on my goodwill. Remember that before making demands." He left without touching her, without another word. It was the first night since her installation in the apartment that Malik had not kissed her goodbye. The absence of that gesture spoke volumes. 2 days later, Sophia arrived with groceries and a troubled expression. "You asked him for papers, didn't you?" she said without preamble, unloading vegetables into the refrigerator. "I can tell by the way the security downstairs is watching the building. He's worried you'll do something unpredictable." Raquel sank into a kitchen chair. "He threatened me with deportation. He said my visa has expired." Sophia nodded, unsurprised. "It was always going to end this way. Ask too much, and suddenly you're the ungrateful immigrant taking advantage of his generosity. I just wanted assurance for my child." "So did Natalia," Sophia replied, the name unfamiliar to Raquel. "The Russian dancer from Mirage. She got pregnant about 2 years ago." Raquel leaned forward. "What happened to her?" She demanded Malik marry her, threatened to tell his family, his wife, everyone. Next thing, she disappeared. The official story was that she returned to Moscow, but no one heard from her again. Her friends at the club tried calling, messaging. Nothing. You think he? Raquel couldn't finish the question. I think men like Malik solve problems permanently, Sophia said carefully. There was a Lebanese girl too before Natalia. Similar story. And Diane, the Filipina before you. She was 5 months pregnant when she vanished. The pattern emerged with sickening clarity. Raquel recalled Gloria's warning from her first weeks at the compound. 2 girls before you left suddenly. There's more, Sophia continued, lowering her voice though they were alone in the apartment. I have a cousin who works as a nurse at Al-Wazil Hospital. She says Malik's family has an arrangement with certain doctors. When foreign women working for them get pregnant, they're offered special medical services. The women check in, but not all of them check out. Are you saying they're forced to terminate pregnancies? Sophia shrugged. I'm saying be careful what you demand from a man who sees you as disposable. That night, unable to sleep, Raquel paced her beautiful prison. Each luxury item now seemed sinister, not gifts but shackles, binding her to a man who viewed her as a temporary inconvenience. The growing child within her kicked vigorously, as if sensing her distress. I'll protect you, she whispered, stroking her belly. Whatever it takes. The decision formed gradually but with increasing certainty. She needed leverage to protect herself and her child. If Malik wouldn't provide security willingly, she would have to force his hand. It took 3 days to gather her courage and the necessary information. Malik Al-Hadid maintained a separate residence in Dubai's exclusive Emirates Hills neighborhood when not traveling in Europe. Through careful questioning of delivery personnel and Sophia's network of domestic workers, Raquel pieced together an address and a daily schedule. The letter was simple, direct. I am carrying your husband's child. We need to meet. Raquel included her phone number and a recent ultrasound image showing the clear profile of the baby, Malik's son. She paid a delivery service to bring the sealed envelope directly to Layla's residence, marked personal and confidential. The backlash was immediate and severe. Malik called less than 4 hours later, his voice tight with barely controlled fury. What have you done? He demanded without greeting. What I had to, Raquel replied, her heart pounding but her voice steady. Your wife deserves to know about her husband's child. You stupid, ungrateful. His voice broke with rage. Do you have any idea what you've done? The damage you've caused? I've done nothing wrong. I'm carrying your child. That's the reality. Reality. Malik laughed, a harsh sound devoid of humor. Here's reality. By tomorrow morning, your family's new apartment in Quezon City will receive notice of eviction. Your mother's medical care will be discontinued. Your siblings' school fees will go unpaid. The threat to her family hit harder than any physical blow could have. You wouldn't. It's already done, he replied coldly. And that's just the beginning. Check your bank account. Your support payments have been suspended. The apartment lease, the car, everything in your name will be revoked within 48 hours. Raquel's hands trembled as she checked her phone. Her account balance showed 0, the substantial cushion she had accumulated completely gone. Why are you doing this? She whispered. Actions have consequences, Malik replied. You'll be contacted tomorrow with instructions. Until then, I suggest you reflect on your decisions. The instructions arrived in the form of 2 men in dark suits who appeared at her door the following morning. They didn't identify themselves but made clear they worked for Malik's security team. One remained in the hallway while the other conducted a thorough search of the apartment, confiscating her phone, laptop, and any documents related to Malik or the Al-Hadid family. You are to remain in the apartment until further notice, the man informed her in heavily accented English. Deliveries will continue. Medical appointments are suspended. Any attempt to contact Mrs. Al-Hadid or other family members will result in immediate removal to immigration detention. For the next 2 weeks, Raquel existed in a state of monitored isolation. Food deliveries arrived regularly, but her digital devices weren't returned. A new phone appeared, basic with no internet capability, programmed only to receive calls from Malik. The security team maintained a visible presence in the lobby and hallways of her building. Her thoughts turned constantly to her family in Manila. Without her financial support, her mother's treatments would lapse. Her siblings' education hung in the balance. The weight of their dependencies pressed on her conscience, fueling a growing desperation. When Malik finally called, nearly 3 weeks after the confrontation, Raquel had reached her breaking point. "Your wife never received my letter," she said immediately, having realized the delivery had likely been intercepted. "That's why you're punishing me. You're afraid." "I'm not afraid of anything," Malik replied, his voice unervingly calm. "I'm disappointed in your lack of gratitude, your poor judgment. But I'm willing to resolve this situation." "I want guarantees," Raquel demanded. "Legal recognition for our child. Restored support for my family. My passport returned. Either you provide these things, or I'll find another way to reach Layla." "You're in no position to make demands," Malik reminded her. "But I'm prepared to discuss arrangements for the child. Not over the phone. In person." "Where?" "Mirage. Tomorrow night. I'll send a car at 10 p.m. We'll meet in my private office where we can speak freely." Raquel hesitated. The nightclub seemed an odd choice for such a discussion. Noisy, public, filled with Malik's employees. Yet it also offered a certain safety. Surely he wouldn't risk a scene in his own establishment. "How do I know this isn't a trap?" she asked. "Because I'm a businessman, Raquel. This is a business problem requiring a business solution. No drama, no complications. Just a straightforward agreement that serves both our interests." His tone was reasonable, almost conciliatory. After weeks of isolation and anxiety, the prospect of resolution, any resolution, seemed worth the risk. "I'll be ready at 10, she agreed. "Excellent," Malik replied, his voice revealing nothing. "Tomorrow night, then. We'll resolve everything." After ending the call, Raquel placed both hands on her swollen abdomen, feeling her son's movements beneath her fingers. 7 months along, so close to bringing new life into the world. She would do whatever necessary to ensure that life had protection, recognition, a future secure from the whims of a powerful man's convenience. "It will be okay," she whispered to her unborn child, trying to convince herself as much as him. "Tomorrow, everything will be resolved." She couldn't have known that resolved meant something very different to Malik Al-Hadid than it did to her. Couldn't have known that within 24 hours, she would join the growing list of foreign women who had disappeared after demanding too much from the wrong man. On the morning of August 15, 2019, Raquel sent a series of text messages to her sister Jasmine. The communication, later recovered from Philippine telecom records, would be the last verified contact with her family. "Things are complicated here but improving," she wrote. "Meeting with Malik tonight to finalize support for the baby. Don't worry if you don't hear from me for a few days. Might be busy with arrangements. Tell Mama her medicine will be taken care of soon. Love you all." The messages maintained Raquel's established pattern of reassurance without detail, protecting her family from the reality of her increasingly precarious situation. What differed was a new attachment, a photo of her bank account information with instructions for emergency contact at the Philippine Embassy in UAE. "Just keeping you updated on where to find things," she explained casually, though the precautionary nature of the information was clear. At 11:23 a.m., Raquel left a voice message for Sophia, who was scheduled to visit the following day. "I'm meeting him tonight at Mirage," her voice steady despite the underlying tension. "He says he wants to discuss arrangements for the baby. I don't fully trust him, but what choice do I have? I've gathered copies of all our text messages, photos of us together, medical records showing he's attended appointments. If anything happens, there's a folder in the bottom drawer of the bedroom dresser. Make sure it reaches the right people." Throughout the afternoon, Raquel prepared methodically for the evening meeting. She selected a loose-fitting navy blue dress that somewhat minimized her 7-month pregnancy while maintaining dignity. She applied makeup carefully, aiming for professional rather than seductive. In her handbag, she placed a small digital recorder purchased discreetly from an electronics shop during one of her rare outings. Building security footage, later seized as evidence, captured Raquel's departure at precisely 9:42 p.m. The camera in the lobby showed her waiting nervously by the entrance, one hand resting protectively on her swollen abdomen. She wore simple gold earrings and the navy dress, with a light cardigan draped over her shoulders against the evening air conditioning. Her hair was pulled back in a neat bun, her expression a mixture of determination and apprehension. At 9:47 p.m., a black Mercedes SUV with tinted windows arrived. The driver, a South Asian man in a dark suit, held the door as Raquel carefully lowered herself into the back seat. This would be the last confirmed sighting of Raquel Mendoza at her residence. Mirage occupied the top 3 floors of a gleaming tower in Dubai's financial district, its entrance marked by nothing more than a discreet gold plaque and 2 imposing security personnel. The nightclub had built its reputation on exclusivity and discretion, catering to the Emirates elite with exorbitantly priced bottle service and private rooms where business deals and personal indiscretions remained equally protected from public scrutiny. The main floor featured illuminated onyx tables, a ceiling embedded with thousands of fiber optic lights mimicking a desert night sky, and a DJ booth elevated on a transparent platform that seemed to float above the dance floor. The second level housed private lounges with one-way glass windows overlooking the main area. The third and highest floor contained executive offices and Malik's personal suite, accessible only by private elevator with biometric security. Security camera footage later recovered showed Raquel's arrival at 10:13 p.m. Rather than entering through the main entrance, the SUV delivered her to a service entrance at the rear of the building. 2 security personnel escorted her immediately to a service elevator, bypassing the club's patrons entirely. The elevator camera captured her ascent to the top floor, where she was met by Malik's personal assistant, a Lebanese man named Farid who had worked for the Alhaded family for over a decade. Farid led her down a hallway to Malik's private office, his hand hovering near her elbow without quite touching her, his expression professionally blank. This would be the last verified footage of Raquel Mendoza alive. According to the official timeline later established, Raquel entered Malik's office at 10:17 p.m. The office itself had no security cameras, a deliberate choice that would later complicate the investigation. A staff member reported delivering drinks to the office at approximately 10:30 p.m. Mineral water for Raquel, whiskey for Malik. This staff member, a Filipino bartender named Miguel, would later claim that Raquel appeared calm but tense, seated across from Malik at his large desk. No other staff reported seeing or interacting with Raquel after 10:30 p.m. Security footage showed Malik leaving his office alone at 1:22 a.m., adjusting his cuffs and straightening his tie before taking his private elevator to the club level, where he socialized with guests until approximately 3 a.m. At no point did cameras capture Raquel leaving the office or exiting the building through any monitored entrance. By the following afternoon, Sophia had grown concerned by Raquel's failure to respond to messages. When she arrived at the apartment for her scheduled visit, she found it locked and seemingly undisturbed. Her calls to Raquel's phone went straight to voicemail. After waiting several hours, Sophia contacted the building management, who refused to allow access to the apartment without proper authorization. On August 17th, after 48 hours without contact, Sophia attempted to file a missing person report with Dubai police. The response was dismissive. "Foreign workers often leave without notice," the desk officer informed her. "Perhaps she returned to the Philippines." "She's 7 months pregnant," Sophia insisted. "She wouldn't travel in her condition, and her passport is being held by her employer." The officer made minimal notes before suggesting Sophia contact the Philippine embassy instead of wasting police resources on a probable voluntary departure. By August 20th, 5 days after Raquel's disappearance, her family in Manila had grown frantic with worry. The consistent pattern of weekly calls had been broken. Elena Mendoza, despite her health issues, attempted to contact UAE authorities and the Philippine embassy, but received little assistance beyond promises to look into the matter. The situation gained traction only when a journalist from Balitang Filipino, a Manila-based news outlet serving the overseas Filipino worker community, picked up the story. The headline was stark: "Pregnant Filipina vanishes in Dubai. Family seeks answers." The article raised uncomfortable questions about the vulnerability of foreign workers in the UAE, particularly women in domestic positions. It noted the pattern of similar disappearances that had never been properly investigated, quoting anonymous sources who described a system where wealthy employers operated with virtual impunity. Public pressure, particularly from the substantial Filipino expatriate community in Dubai, finally forced a nominal investigation. Detective Aisha Nazari, one of the few female investigators in Dubai's police force, was assigned to the case. Her appointment was viewed cynically by some colleagues as a public relations move rather than a serious investigative effort. "They give the female detective the missing maid case," one officer was overheard commenting. "Perfect for international press." What her superiors hadn't anticipated was Nazari's determination and meticulous approach. The daughter of an Iranian father and Emirati mother, she had fought against institutional prejudice throughout her career and recognized similar patterns in the dismissive handling of Raquel's disappearance. "The pregnancy changes everything," she noted in her initial case assessment. "A 7-month pregnant woman doesn't simply vanish without medical consequences. Either she received care somewhere, or something happened to prevent her needing care." Detective Nazari's preliminary investigation yielded troubling findings. Raquel's apartment showed no signs of packing or planned departure. Prenatal vitamins remained in the bathroom cabinet. Baby clothes still neatly arranged in a newly assembled crib. Her medical records confirmed her next appointment had been scheduled for the week following her disappearance. Phone records showed Raquel's device had last pinged a tower near Mirage Nightclub at 10:22 p.m. on August 15th, after which the phone either died or was deactivated. Financial records revealed that support payments to Raquel Mendoza's account in Manila had ceased 3 weeks before Raquel's disappearance, contradicting the family's understanding that financial issues were being resolved. Most significantly, when Detective Nazari requested security footage from Mirage for the night of August 15th, she encountered immediate resistance. The club management initially claimed technical issues had corrupted footage from the private office floor. When Nazari persisted, obtaining a warrant for all security recordings, the critical period between 10:30 p.m. and 1:20 a.m. was mysteriously missing. "Equipment malfunction," the security director explained, "happens sometimes with the heat." A search of Malik's office revealed nothing overtly suspicious, though forensic technicians noted the distinct smell of industrial cleaning products and found trace evidence suggesting a recent intensive cleaning, unusual for a space that had regular janitorial service. "The entire office has been sanitized," the forensic supervisor reported. "Professional-grade chemicals, thorough application. We're talking hospital-level disinfection." When Nazari attempted to interview nightclub staff who had been working that evening, she found a wall of silence. Miguel, the bartender who had reported delivering drinks, suddenly remembered. He might have been confused about dates. Other staff claimed no knowledge of any pregnant visitor. Security personnel insisted they had seen nothing unusual. The pattern of obstruction extended to the highest levels. 3 weeks into her investigation, Detective Nazari was called to her captain's office and instructed to classify the case as a voluntary disappearance. "The woman obviously returned to the Philippines," the captain insisted. "These workers do it all the time when they get in trouble, probably trying to hide her pregnancy from her family." When Nazari pointed out that Raquel's passport remained in Malik Al-Hadid's possession, making international travel impossible, the captain waved away her concerns. "There are ways around immigration for those determined enough. Close the case, detective. Your resources are needed elsewhere." Despite the pressure, Nazari continued a quiet investigation. She discovered financial records showing Malik had withdrawn 50,000 dirhams, approximately $13,600, in cash the day before Raquel's disappearance. Cell tower data placed his phone in a remote desert area 70 kilometers outside Dubai in the early morning hours of August 16th. Information that couldn't be explained by his official movements captured on security footage. When Nazari requested permission to search the desert location, her request was denied due to jurisdictional limitations. When she attempted to formally interview Malik Al-Hadid, she was informed that he had left the country on business and would be unavailable indefinitely. The investigation was effectively frozen, not officially closed, but rendered impotent by institutional barriers and powerful interests. The last official notation in Raquel Mendoza's case file, dated September 30, 2019, read simply, "Insufficient evidence to determine criminal activity. Subject likely departed UAE through unofficial channels. Case inactive pending new information." What the notation didn't mention was that September 30th would have been Raquel's expected delivery date. A child who, like its mother, had vanished without a trace. On November 7, 2019, two British tourists hiking in the desert region of Al-Qudra, approximately 37 kilometers southwest of Dubai, veered off the marked trail in search of a distinctive rock formation they had spotted from afar. What they discovered instead would finally break open the case that Dubai authorities had tried desperately to bury. Partially concealed beneath a shallow covering of sand and rocks lay human remains, a body in an advanced state of decomposition due to the harsh desert environment. Despite the condition, two details were immediately apparent. The deceased had been female and pregnant. The hiker's emergency call brought Dubai police to the remote location within the hour, followed by forensic teams whose work would continue through the night under hastily erected floodlights. The remains were transported to the Dubai Forensic Medicine Department, where dental records confirmed what Detective Aisha Nazari had suspected since being assigned the case. They had found Raquel Mendoza. The investigation had begun nearly 3 months earlier when a security guard at Mirage Nightclub discovered Raquel's abandoned purse in the service entrance during his late-night patrol on August 15th. The purse, containing her positive pregnancy test, handwritten note in Tagalog, and expired work visa, had been the first physical evidence of her disappearance, though the case had quickly stalled under pressure from powerful interests. The autopsy, conducted under international observation due to the case's growing sensitivity, revealed that Raquel had died from asphyxiation, manual strangulation that had fractured the hyoid bone in her neck. Her wrists showed bruising consistent with restraints. Defensive wounds on her hands and forearms indicated she had fought desperately for her life. Most devastating was the medical examiner's determination regarding her pregnancy. The male fetus, approximately 30 weeks developed, had died in utero as a result of maternal death. The autopsy indicated Raquel had been killed within hours of her disappearance, her body transported to the desert location and covered in a perfunctory attempt at concealment. The perpetrator didn't expect the body to be found, Detective Nazari noted in her report. The location was selected for isolation, not effective concealment. This suggests someone familiar with the area but without experience in body disposal, not a professional killer. Working against explicit orders to limit her involvement, Nazari meticulously reconstructed the timeline of Raquel's final hours. Cell tower data placed Malik's phone near the recovery site between 3:47 a.m. and 4:30 a.m. on August 16th. Hours after security footage showed him socializing at Mirage. Soil samples from tire tracks near the body matched a particular high-end tire compound used exclusively on the model of SUV owned by Malik's security team. Most damning was the discovery of fibers from Raquel's distinctive navy dress embedded in the carpet of Malik's office, missed during the hasty cleaning that had followed her disappearance. These fibers, along with microscopic blood spatter detected using luminol on the office walls, suggested Raquel had died in that room, likely during a violent confrontation. As evidence mounted, the Alhaded family's response was swift and comprehensive. Malik departed Dubai abruptly for extended business in Singapore, though flight records would later show he had continued to London and then to a property the family maintained in the south of France. Legal representatives from the family's team began appearing at police headquarters daily, requesting updates that served as thinly veiled monitoring of the investigation's progress. Local press remained conspicuously silent about the discovery, running only brief mentions of remains found, without connecting them to Raquel's disappearance. The few journalists who attempted to pursue the story found their access to officials suddenly restricted, their questions unanswered, their editors receiving calls from government media offices suggesting more productive coverage areas. The Philippine embassy, under-resourced and wary of jeopardizing the status of the approximately 750,000 Filipino workers in the UAE, issued only carefully worded statements expressing concern and requesting transparency in the investigation. The diplomats, constrained by political and economic realities, could offer little concrete pressure beyond formal requests for information. Detective Nazari found herself increasingly isolated within her department. Her case files were repeatedly misplaced. Her requests for additional forensic testing went unapproved. Senior officers began questioning her handling of unrelated cases, suggesting her workload might be affecting her judgment. The final blow came when the medical examiner's report was mysteriously amended before official filing. The revised document listed cause of death as environmental exposure with contributing factors of pregnancy complications, effectively recasting Raquel's murder as a tragic misadventure. A pregnant woman somehow wandering into the desert and succumbing to the elements. On December 12, 2019, Nazari was officially removed from the case, reassigned to administrative duties in the department's records division. The following day, Dubai police issued a press statement declaring the investigation complete, with no evidence of criminal activity found. The death has been determined to be the result of misadventure, the statement concluded. The case is now closed. The official narrative might have prevailed if not for the determination of two distinct groups: Sofia Reyes and her network of domestic workers in Dubai, and the growing Filipino diaspora community worldwide. Sofia had maintained a careful collection of evidence throughout Raquel's relationship with Malik: text messages, photographs, voice recordings, and most critically, the folder Raquel had prepared before her final meeting. This material, though insufficient for UAE authorities who refused to acknowledge it, provided compelling documentation when shared with international media and human rights organizations. The social media campaign began organically, with Filipina domestic workers in Dubai sharing Raquel's story through WhatsApp groups and Facebook communities. The hashtag Justice for Raquel gained momentum, spreading from UAE to the Philippines and then globally. Each share included the simple message: she was one of us. She could have been any of us. By January 2020, international media had broken through the information blockade. The BBC ran an in-depth investigation titled "Death in the Desert: The Disappearance of Raquel Mendoza." Al Jazeera produced a documentary exploring the vulnerability of female migrant workers in Gulf states. The New York Times published a feature examining how wealth and power created systems of impunity in cases involving foreign domestic workers. Human Rights Watch released a comprehensive report documenting 27 cases with striking similarities to Raquel's. Foreign women working for wealthy employers who had disappeared after becoming pregnant or making demands for recognition. In 19 of these cases, the women remained missing. In 6, bodies had been discovered under suspicious circumstances, but investigations closed without charges. Only 2 had resulted in any form of prosecution, both against low-level employees rather than the employers themselves. The growing international scrutiny created diplomatic complications for the UAE, a nation carefully cultivating its image as a modern, progressive state within the Gulf region. Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte, responding to domestic pressure, threatened to suspend Filipino worker deployments to the Emirates if a credible investigation wasn't conducted. In February 2020, facing mounting pressure, Dubai authorities announced a review of the case. This carefully worded concession fell short of reopening the investigation but allowed officials to claim responsiveness to international concerns. The review, conducted by a special committee rather than regular police channels, focused narrowly on procedural aspects of the nightclub's operations on the night of Raquel's disappearance. The resulting charges were equally narrow. 3 Mirage employees, including security director Hassan Kamal, were indicted for failure to maintain proper security protocols and obstruction of a police investigation for the deleted security footage. None faced charges directly related to Raquel's death. Malik Al-Hadid remained unnamed in all official documents, his presence in France extending indefinitely. The Alhaded family, recognizing the potential for continued scrutiny, offered a financial settlement to the Mendoza family in Manila. The amount, reportedly 1.5 million dirhams, approximately $408,000, was presented as a humanitarian gesture rather than an admission of responsibility. Raquel Mendoza, still battling health issues and responsible for 3 children, reluctantly accepted the payment after months of deliberation. "This money cannot bring back my daughter," she told a Filipino journalist in a rare interview. "But it can secure the future she wanted for her siblings. I believe that is what Raquel would want me to do." The UAE government, seeking to address the structural issues highlighted by the case, announced modest reforms to the kafala sponsorship system that governed migrant workers. New regulations required employers to return passports upon request, established clear mechanisms for reporting abuse, and created a specialized unit within the labor ministry focused on domestic worker concerns. Critics noted these changes, while positive, failed to address the fundamental power imbalances that had enabled Raquel's exploitation and death. On what would have been Raquel's 26th birthday, hundreds gathered at Santo Tomas University in Manila for a memorial service. Her nursing school classmates, family members, and representatives from migrant worker advocacy groups remembered the young woman whose dreams had carried her across the world and ultimately to her death. The Elena and Raquel Mendoza Foundation was established with a portion of the settlement funds, providing scholarships for nursing students from disadvantaged backgrounds and legal assistance for overseas Filipino workers facing exploitation. Its simple motto, "So no one else disappears," captured both the personal tragedy and systemic failure that had defined Raquel's story. Malik Al-Hadid never faced criminal charges. Though his reputation suffered in international circles, his wealth and family connections insulated him from serious consequences. Mirage Nightclub closed briefly for renovations before reopening under a new name, its connection to Raquel's case gradually fading from public memory in Dubai, though never forgotten by the women who continued to work in the homes of the wealthy. For the millions of migrant workers who leave their homes each year seeking opportunity in foreign lands, Raquel's story serves as both warning and call to action. A stark reminder of the vulnerability created when poverty, gender, and immigration status intersect with unchecked power and wealth. Her case represents thousands of others that never make headlines, never spark hashtags, never result even in the limited accountability achieved for Raquel. Each year, approximately 8,000 migrant workers worldwide are reported missing by their families. The actual number is almost certainly higher, with many cases never formally reported due to fear, language barriers, or simple lack of resources. As we conclude this episode, we ask you to consider, what value do we place on the lives of those who cross borders seeking better futures? What responsibilities do host countries have toward their most vulnerable residents? And how many more Raquels will disappear before systems of protection match the systems of exploitation? If this story has affected you as deeply as it has affected those of us who researched and produced it, please share it widely. Follow the work of organizations like Migranti International and the International Domestic Workers Federation, who continue fighting for the protection of those most vulnerable to abuse. In our next episode, we'll examine the case of Aisha Rahman, a Bangladeshi garment worker whose death exposed dangerous conditions in an industry built on disposable labor and deniable responsibility. For now, we leave you with the image that has become symbolic of this case. The Mendoza family gathered around a small shrine in their Quezon City home, Raquel's nursing school portrait surrounded by candles and fresh flowers. A daughter, sister, and mother-to-be whose dreams deserved a very different ending than the one she received in the desert sands outside Dubai.